Notre Dame is officially in the national championship. And no, it's not 2013. It's not 1991. It is 2025, and Notre Dame has clinched berth in the national championship. They are there, folks. And let me tell you, that Orange Bowl game was entertaining. It was exactly the matchup that I thought it would be. I actually think I predicted Notre Dame to win like 24-20, and instead it was 27-24. I'm kind of blanking on the score right now. Yep, that's right, 27-24. That game was unreal. It was a knockdown drag out defensively in the first half, finishing 10-3 at the end of the first half. And then that fourth quarter, I mean, you saw Notre Dame went up 17-14 in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Nittany Lions 17-14. That game was invigorating. It was exciting. It was a classic for the Orange Bowl. I hope that tomorrow night's Cotton Bowl replicates what that game was, because that was fantastic. Quarterback play was interesting, but on Notre Dame's side of the ball, it got the job done. And I've been catching a lot of flack from my friends about Drew Aller, because I've been holding strong on the claim that he will be a first round draft pick in 2026. And that last minute interception was ghastly. It was inexcusable. But I still think that's something that he can repair from and move on. Also, the game stat line wasn't great. 12 for 23 wasn't the best night for Drew Aller, but Penn State's defense did a fantastic job of getting pressure on Notre Dame all night. So, like Josh Pate does on his show, I'm gonna start talking about the winners tonight. And I said going into this game that there's a certain style of play and a certain plot of a game that very much favors Notre Dame. And it's a low-scoring knockdown dragout where they can differentiate themselves on turnovers, on third down stops, and on extending drives. Taking 4 or 5 minutes to drive down the field. That's exactly what they did to start the second half. That was one of the most Notre Dame drives I've ever seen. They just grinded that clock right down, and they got a score. And keeping it within one score. Like, they're not Notre Dame is not by any means a huge comeback team, but they kept this game within reach tonight, within striking distance, and they were able to capitalize in the end. Mitch Jeter hitting that game-winning field goal. The running game was awesome for Notre Dame tonight. I mean, 116 yards for their standards could have been better, but it got the job done. But passing yards, Riley Leonard did really well tonight. I mean, you look at it, 223 passing yards, really stepped up in the fourth quarter. Had a couple interceptions you wish he could have gotten back. But generally, more so in the second half, he played some clean football and delivered when he needed to. So caps off to Riley Leonard for that. Jeremiah Love, 45 yards on the grounds. And Notre Dame receiving. It did really, really well tonight. I was that unit which you really struggled to find the one guy that differentiated himself in that group, but I think you started to see a few tonight. I want to shout Jaden Greathouse. I mean, he was clutch tonight. He was clutch, got open when he needed to, ran some great routes. So caps off to him as well. But overall, great performance. Notre Dame's defense they were punishing, but they were also situationally great tonight. Generating turnovers when they need to, getting pressure when they need to. And in the first half, it looked like they're getting bullied around in the trenches a little bit. But Notre Dame did what every smart team does at halftime. They went in, they made adjustments, and they came back out. They also had the advantage of getting the ball to start the second half, and they capitalized with that long drive. That's what Notre Dame does best. They did what every great team does. They make adjustments, they prepare, and they come out and dominate after that. Notre Dame in every phase of the game They just look like a well-coached team. They look like the more prepared team tonight. And a lot of ways, this game went as I expected it to. Penn State was the better team on paper. They looked more talented tonight. They looked more skilled. You look at their guys, they're bigger than Notre Dame's. I mean, you can't refute that. That's right before your eyes. But Notre Dame was more prepared. They paid more attention to detail, and they did a better job at capitalizing when they needed to. And I want to say this because I talked about this last night. They forced Penn State into making a mistake when it mattered most on that game-sealing interception. They made Penn State make a mistake when it mattered most. And I want to shout out Morrow here. Give me a comment. 2 games in a row. The possession at the half game, Notre Dame a boost. Absolutely. Notre Dame uses those possessions as springboards, but that is what great teams do. That is what well-coached, well-prepared teams do, is that when you give them an opportunity, they're going to capitalize on it. Not to compare this Notre Dame team to Alabama in any way, shape, or form in the past, but that's what Alabama was great at. If you would see how Alabama start some games when they're coached by Nick Saban. They'd be a little bit slow, but then they'd get that fumble or that interception, and they turn it into 7. And there's other teams out there that turn into 3 or just give the ball away again. That's what you saw a lot of out of Penn State tonight, is you get an opportunity and you blow it. Notre Dame, they get the rock in their hands. They're going to make something out of it. You give them the ball at half. They get that interception. They're going to capitalize. They're going to do something with it. They're going to get 7. Nick Saban was talking about that on College Game Day today too. Like that's what differentiates Notre Dame from a lot of these other teams out there, is capitalizing on what's given to them. You can have all the talent in the world. You can have these 5-star athletes on your team. You can be the bigger team. You can be the better team on paper. But if you're not taking advantage of opportunities when they present themselves, none of that even matters. But Notre Dame is so great at that. They're so fundamentally sound, and that's how you pull off a game like that. I mean, you watch the first half of that game, and I'm sitting there with a few of my friends, and I'm like, man, Penn State just looks like the better team. They just look more talented. They're getting into a rhythm offensively. I thought Drew Aller was starting to get really comfortable in the first half, and I'm like, if Notre Dame or if Penn State gets one more touchdown, they really may start to run this up. But Notre Dame never gave up. They never gave up on their vision. They stayed in the ring. They forced Penn State into getting 3 instead of 7 one of those possessions, and that was the difference maker. They clawed their way back into this game. They stayed true to their identity and stayed true to the fundamentals. They crept right back into this thing, took the lead, and ultimately sunk the game-winning field goal. That's when a team makes a mistake, like Morrow was saying in the comment section here, when a team makes a mistake, you want to make them pay for those mistakes. That's what championship teams do, and that's Notre Dame. Let's talk about Penn State here for a minute. And on the show, I really try to avoid having a negative or pessimistic tone. I feel like a lot of people in sports media kind of gravitate towards doing that. And I really want to stray from that. But I got to be honest about Penn State here. This was one of the top 5 most talented teams in the nation. I mean, you look at from top to bottom the guys that are on this team. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, Tyler Warren, Abdul Carter, Kobe King, Drew Aller. This is a really talented football team. And time and time again, they are not put in positions to succeed. They look ill-prepared going into a lot of these games. They don't capitalize in big moments. And from a play calling standpoint, and I'm not one who criticizes play calling at all either, but I can tell they're overthinking things a lot. I mean, when you're having Tyler Warren drop back, it's not a good look. It looks kind of desperate. You don't need to make that play call. And time and time again, you see Penn State get into these spots and they drop the ball because in many ways, they're not ready. They're not prepared. I mean, when I'm going into the box score here tonight, and I'm seeing that a wide receiver didn't get a reception for Penn State all night. You know, I'm looking on social media right now, and I'm seeing a lot of fingers pointing at Drew Aller. And I get it. That interception was costly, and there are a lot of opportunities that he missed tonight, and a lot of plays that he wished he could have gotten back. But when you don't have a completion to a receiver all night long, I'm sorry. That right there is on your coaching staff not scheming things up correctly. I mean, it's like they're trying to run a 2 tight end system with a quarterback who has a rocket of an arm and great accuracy downfield. It's so incredibly frustrating watching Drew Aller because you can just see by watching him play how much he's capable of. But he barely even scrapes that potential. And it just kills me to see that because I know that he can be much more. I know that this team can be much more. They were a more talented team than Notre Dame tonight. You could see them start to establish tempo in the second quarter. They were beating them in the trenches in the first half, both on offense and defense, outclassing Notre Dame. And if they were a team like Notre Dame that when they're given opportunities, they capitalize on them at a considerably high rate, Penn State pulls away, just like they did against Boise State, just like they did against SMU. But they didn't. They continued to drive down the field, sell for 3. Drive down the field, not get anything. And they'd have these empty drives. And Notre Dame is a team that, you know, if you don't do anything on your side of the ball, they're going to get back and do something. They're that well coached to where if you don't respond, they will for you. And Penn State fell into that trap. They struggled to expand the lead. And for that reason, Notre Dame got right back into this thing, and they won. It is very frustrating to watch Penn State, and I'm being very frank here. I really am, because when you're just given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to extend the lead and put this game away, and you let it slip through your hands, there's no reason why you lose that game tonight. And I'm sure that a lot of Penn State fans can agree with exactly what I'm saying right now. I mean, statistically, you know, you look at Penn State's running backs. Nick Singleton, 84 yards. Kaytron Allen, 82 yards. They did what they need to do on the ground. Tyler Warren, 73 receiving yards. I mean, that's pretty good for him. Drew Aller, not great, like I said earlier, 140 passing yards, 12 for 23. That's not a great night. But when you're a quarterback who's being developed like Drew Aller is right now, and you're continually not being put in positions to succeed, you know, your confidence is going to go down at some point, and you're not going to see things. You're not going to see the field the same way that you would in the past. You know, it's tough. It's tough. That's the only way that I can describe watching this team is it's tough because from top to bottom, they're constructed like the championship team. This was the deepest, most talented Penn State team that I had seen to date. And you know, they also they got good pressure tonight, but they did not sack Riley Leonard as much as I expected them to. So I was expecting them to ramp it up a little bit as well tonight, and I never really saw that come to fruition tonight. They had one more penalty than Notre Dame tonight, 5 penalties to 4. But it's sloppy football, and it's empty drives. And it's one thing if you're a team that doesn't have the artillery, that doesn't have the weapons to succeed. It's one thing if you simply don't have the guys, the Jimmies and Joes, to execute when it means most. But when you have them and you're the better team in so many of these games, and I even saw it in the Boise State game. I called it out in the last game against Boise State. The fact that Boise State was still hanging around the fourth quarter, Penn State showed time and time again they're the more superior team, and I was expecting them to pull away at any moment. And they just kept Boise State lingering and lingering and lingering. When you leave teams lingering, you're playing a team as well coached as Notre Dame. They are eventually going to strike, and so that is where Penn State fell short tonight. Those empty drives and not capitalizing out Notre Dame gave them. Notre Dame made errors as well tonight. The difference is Notre Dame capitalized on theirs. And I've got to give it to this Notre Dame team as well. I mean, you'll sometimes see, teams get to this point. You get a wonky year like this, like sometimes you get a favorable bracket, and you're just able to get favorable matchup after favorable matchup, and you kind of, I hate to use terms like this, but you kind of luck your way to the championship. That's not Notre Dame. The Indiana game, did Indiana belong in the playoff or not? That's up for debate. But playing Georgia and just completely outclassing a team that has won 2 national championships in the past decade, that says a lot. And then playing a Penn State team that's significantly more talented than you. And, you just gradually wear them down. They go up, they go up like they did just like against Ohio State. They go up like they did. Then you claw your way back in. I mean, that is a resilient, well-coached team. Jeremiah Love for a sophomore. It's just so incredibly talented. So fun to watch. And Jaden Greathouse, great nights. Jack Kaiser is an absolute demon on defense. And Riley Leonard, I've had my concerns about him this year, when it comes to protecting the ball, holding onto the ball. And, sometimes his stat line can look a little wonky. There's not a lot of passing yards sometimes. He didn't need 100 to beat Georgia, but he got over 200 tonight. And so he did what we need to do tonight. And I credit him for that. But this is a Notre Dame team, like I was saying, it kind of reminds me of Michigan last year. There's nothing sexy or special or eye-popping about it. They're just a physical team that is fundamentally sound and well-coached. And if you can master those things, you can get blood out of a stone. And you can make what others would view as a good team. Because that's what I looked at. That's what I started looking at Notre Dame this year. I saw a good team that could make one of the last playoff spots. Like I had them in A&M in that conversation at the beginning of the year. But then they wouldn't go too far. But they're so well coached that they capitalize on the opportunities that are given to them. And that's what it takes to succeed. And this is huge for Notre Dame too, because you're building a foundation. Marcus Freeman, I'm not even a player, but I watch him talk and how he presents himself, and that's a guy that I want to play for. That's a coach that I could buy into. And now you're seeing a track record of success compiling here too. This could be the foundation for something special to come for Notre Dame. This could definitely put this program in a position where it has a positive trajectory. And they could continue to get back to this spot, especially with this format. They could be a fixture in this spot because academics are a selling point there as well. You get that with great development from Marcus Freeman and an excellent culture. And there's a proven track record of success. This could be the beginning of some very bright things for Notre Dame here. And if you're Penn State, the sky's not falling in, because this is a program that knows how to go out there and acquire talent. And as far as preparing them for the NFL, Penn State has been great at that too. But getting guys prepared individually for these games, that's something I talked about Georgia in this last live when I was discussing Notre Dame last week. I think Notre Dame put Penn State in that position where you seriously got to think about things right now. You seriously have to think about your future and your trajectory. And, I'm not a hit the panic button guy. I'm not a fire James Franklin guy. I'm not a fire the OC guy. Like, I'm not one of those talking heads. But I'm going to be very real with Penn State, just like I was with Georgia last week, where adjustments have to be made. Georgia's adjustments are more related to the way that they're going out and acquiring talent and the NIL age. I don't think they were aggressive in that realm as they should be. And talent retention, Georgia has to be a little bit better. My critiques of Georgia are more so when it comes to their roster. Penn State, my critique is more based on what they're doing with that roster, because they have the guys there. But I've got to see Penn State put these guys in more advantageous positions in the future. Get the ball to your best player when they need the most, when you need to the most, and just show that you're prepared for what's coming. Because in a lot of these games, Penn State looks like a deer in the headlights in big moments. I just saw a James Franklin stat come in from Bleacher Report here. He is 4-20 against top 10 opponents with the players that they've had and the teams that Penn State has been able to field. The fact that they are 4-20 against top 10 teams under James Franklin is mind-blowing to me. And I don't like to take this negative tone with teams a lot, but I'm seeing so much talent go through this Penn State program and so little get achieved from it. Just think about some of these guys that have gone through this program in the past. Saquon Barkley, Micah Parsons, John Dotson, Chop Robinson, Miles Sanders. I mean, there have been some absolute dogs that have come through this program. And they haven't had a national championship appearance. Michigan has, with a significantly less talented team than some of these teams we've seen Penn State field, including this year's. Something has got to change philosophically here, and with how they're wired for these games, because something is off psychologically when it comes to these big games. They're not ready. They're not prepared. They don't have the right game plan, the right scheme for these games. It's got to change, because it is the same story a lot, time and time again, for Penn State. And it's been a great season. I mean, you've got to acknowledge it's progress, because it is Penn State's first Final Four under James Franklin, but it also took the 12-team playoff to get them there. It took the new format to get them there. That's going to be a narrative that's going to be fueled here. And it took them to this point to get there. They should have been there years ago. And so, that's something that you're going to have to take into consideration as well. But from a program standpoint, Penn State is in a spot where they need to make adjustments. It's that simple. They need to make adjustments philosophically. Notre Dame, once again, they're one of those weird teams, because I looked at them all year and I'm like, what is so good about this team? I'm like, everybody's raving about this team. I'm like, they've got the fourth highest odds in the national championship. I'm like, what are people seeing this team? Like, I think it's more their opponents. They haven't really played anybody that good. Well, they played two really good opponents these last two games, and they won consecutively. So this is a fantastic Notre Dame team. I'm very happy for all of their fans that you've gone through letdown for letdown these past several years in big spots, and now you're seeing this team capitalize, and they look more prepared with Marcus Freeman, and he's a guy who's so easy to get behind. That, and I want to say too, that kick from Mitch Jeter, Jesus put it out. That's Notre Dame is Jesus's team. Jesus put his hands on that football, and it was going one way, and he pushed it back into the net. It was amazing to see. God was on Notre Dame's side tonight. But overall, these are the kind of matchups that you want to see in the playoff. I know that the first round was a tough watch, a lot of blowouts. Second round was a bit better. Notre Dame, Georgia was pretty good. That was an entertaining game, and so was Arizona State and Texas. But the other two were, Oregon, Ohio State didn't live up to what we thought would be, and Penn State, Boise State Penn State always controlled the tempo. But this was an entertaining game, and I hope that tomorrow night's matchup, Texas and Ohio State, lives up to that same standards. I can't wait to see what Notre Dame does in the Natty. Notre Dame fans, start to book your flights to Atlanta. You're going, and it's well-deserved. Penn State fans, don't give up hope. Y'all be back here at some point, but it's up to your program to make some adjustments philosophically here down the line. And I'm very excited to see what comes of Texas and Ohio State tomorrow nights. This is what this time of year is all about. I thank you all for hopping on here tonight. These lives have been really successful, and it's all because of y'all and your support and tuning in here. So thank you for taking the time to jump in here tonight. I always like going on these lives after these big games. If I'm back in time from the Ohio State Texas game tomorrow night, I'll go live. If not, it may be a short. But I'll definitely be going live for some of these NFL games here, these playoff games, and for the national championship, of course, afterwards. I'll be going live as well. But thank you all for hopping on and watching. I really appreciate your support as always. Have a great night.